Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney was received with military honours by German Chancellor Friedrich Merz today in Berlin. A joint press conference was held afterward, during which the two discussed bilateral cooperation, defence projects, trade partnerships, and the current situation in Ukraine. This was an important visit for security, stability, and international cooperation.
Wir wollen neue Partnerschaften schmieden. Und drittens,
I want to forge new partnerships. And third, I welcome the Canadian desire to cooperate closer with Europe. At the summit EU-Canada in June, we set the course also by signing a defense and security cooperation and partnership. And in this context, it is good that CETA free trade agreement offers a framework for our trade. This agreement finally has entered into force, and it has shown some effect. Trade volume between Europe and Canada has increased by around 1/3. That shows that free trade agreements are effective and in mutual interest. This agreement is a true engine for growth, and we want to continue to use this tool. Our ministers for the economy are signing a German-Canadian memorandum of understanding on the cooperation in the field of raw materials. This as well is a cooperation that I very much welcome, and we support this. It is a good step to further strengthen our economies and make them more secure. And of course, the topic of Ukraine was also on our agenda. Dear Mark, you visited Ukraine before coming here. You're building a bridge and a very crucial historic moment. Together, since day one, we're standing on Ukraine's side, and it is important to us that the Euro-Atlantic security order is strengthened against the backdrop of this attack. We coordinated positions and talked about positions on diplomatic efforts to make weapons fall silent in Ukraine. We support President Trump's diplomatic efforts to end the Russian war of aggression. We need to see a just and durable peace as a result, a peace that protects Ukrainian and Euro-Atlantic security interests, indeed. We talked about two issues. First, what can be the path under participation of President Zelensky? And second, we addressed the issue of security guarantees. What security guarantees are needed so that we're seeing a breakthrough towards a durable ceasefire? President Zelensky made it clear last week in Washington he is willing to sit at a table together with Putin. It's Moscow's turn now. If Moscow is seriously and President Putin is serious about ending the killing, he will take up this offer. If the Russian side does not engage, we need more pressure, and we're working towards imposing more sanctions. And the American president didn't exclude further punitive tariffs. Ladies and gentlemen, to increase the possibility of a positive prospect and positive outcome of the summit, we're talking about security guarantees. We talked about this as well. Such security guarantees need to be strong and reliable security guarantees that have the objective of supporting the Ukrainian army and putting it in a position to defend the country, and further questions can be posed and answered after that. In conclusion, dear Mark, you're going to travel on to Latvia. Canada is a lead nation, and Canada shoulders responsibility when it comes to defending NATO's eastern flank. As you all know, we started to deploy a brigade to List Lithuania. This is also a testament to the close cooperation with the Baltic states, and it shows that our alliance is and remains transatlantic in nature, and Canada is lending a vital contribution. And I'd like to express my gratitude and thank you for that. It's a very good partnership, also marked by the spirit of trust and friendship, and I appreciate our cooperation. And in this spirit, I look forward to our future cooperation. Thank you very much for visiting us, and thank you also that members of your cabinet and our cabinet members are meeting today and will sign the Memorandum of Understanding today. We are deepening our bilateral cooperation, and we do so in the spirit of gratitude and out of the deep conviction that Canada and Germany share many things in common, and on this basis, we want to continue to foster our cooperation.
Thank you very much, Chancellor, dear Friedrich. Thank you for your hospitality. Being here was as enjoyable as it is productive. And, you know, my mind's cast back to when we renewed acquaintances in April of this year, just in April, after we were both elected. We met in Rome, and we discussed how really in a changing global environment was creating deep vulnerabilities in terms of collective security, in defense, in supply chains, and how our economies have functioned. And we committed to explore common solutions at that point. And I want to pick up a bit on what the Chancellor has just said, because it shows that we're making progress on exactly those issues. And starting with collective security, it's hard to overstate how important the commitment of Germany, Canada, other NATO partners to the 5% defense spending, the bold leadership of Germany in helping to make your personal leadership and helping to make that happen for NATO as a whole, that 5% commitment. For Canada, to put it in context, this will represent a quadrupling of our defense expenditure between our last budget in 2024 and the end of this decade. Also, with respect to collective security, it matters where we are and how we work, and Germany's commitment in the Baltics and Lithuania. As the Chancellor just said, I will be traveling from here with colleagues to Latvia, where we have over 2,500 troops stationed and have been active over the course of the last decade. And of course, again, and with your leadership through the E3 at the Coalition of the Willing, Canada is participating in broader collective efforts to bring peace and security to Ukraine. Now, we know that peace can only come through strength. That means strength in terms of sanctions against Russia and this illegal war. It means strength in reinforcing Ukrainian armed forces, which we are both doing in terms of materiel. And it means robust and credible security guarantees. And we had detailed discussions on those, working through the modalities. We both, I will reiterate how much we welcome President Trump's openness to U.S. participation to help align with the work of the Coalition of the Willing. With respect to defense, I just want to say a few words. That big increase in spending that we're both doing, we're very conscious, individually and collectively, on making sure that is as effective as possible. That spending is as effective as possible, and being effective starts with true partnerships. So for Canada, it is very important that we are developed a security and defense partnership with the European Union. Will help us to deliver on our NATO capability targets, particularly through participation in Europe's Security Action for Europe, or SAFE program, as an instrument of rearm for Europe. And I want to thank the Chancellor for his personal support of Canada's participation in this action plan. There are many tangible opportunities, and I'm going to highlight one. We are announcing today, this morning, that Canada is in the process, we've announced this fact previously, we're in the process of renewing our submarine fleet. So it is one of our most important defense initiatives. We've been running a process. There's a wide range of interests in helping us with this. We have narrowed the list to two finalists. And I look forward, along with the Minister of Industry, Melanie Joly, who is here, and the Minister of National Defense, we will be visiting ThyssenKrupp Marine Systems facility in Kiel later today. So the German-Norwegian partnership is one of the two finalists for this, consistent with the cooperation potential that we have, and consistent with Canada fully fulfilling its responsibilities on all three of our coasts, the Atlantic, the Pacific, and of course the Arctic. And the other factor I just wanted to highlight is our joint work to bring resiliency to supply chains. One of the big vulnerabilities that's been exposed by the Ukraine war, it was exposed by COVID, it's been exposed by the changing global trade dynamics, are vulnerabilities in supply chains, including in critical metals and minerals. Now, Germany has been amongst the leaders in beginning that diversification away from China, particularly China and Russia. Canada can play a role in accelerating that diversification for Germany and for Europe. And these issues are only going to become more important. There's likely to be a fourfold increase in the demand for critical metals and minerals over the course of the next decade. Alors que Allemands et d'autres dirigeants cherchent à diversifier leurs fournisseurs de minéraux critiques,
Germany and other countries are trying to diversify their suppliers as far as critical minerals and raw materials is concerned. Canada stands ready. We have a great wealth in terms of raw materials, and we can provide secure supplies so that those countries can position themselves better.
In my home province of Alberta, the Chancellor and I, and we were joined by others, in developing a critical minerals action plan. Basically, for this diversification to happen, you need willing buyers as well as willing sellers. And we have an initiative to help develop and stockpile those critical minerals. And it's in that context that the Minister of Natural Resources and his counterpart will be signing a joint declaration on intent on critical minerals cooperation, so to accelerate innovation, investment, and collaboration. And in this regard, we are already seeing progress since our meeting in June. And I'm going to give just a couple examples to make this tangible. Troilus Gold Company, which is a Canadian mining company, has signed a long-term copper supply agreement with Hamburg-based Arubis AGA, one of Europe's leading smelter and recycling groups. In Quebec, Torngat Metals has entered into an MOU with VAC, which is a leader in global rare earth magnets, a lesson that our partners to the south, the Americans, have learned about the vulnerabilities in the rare earth magnet supply chain. So we're creating a rare earth magnet supply chain between Quebec, between Canada and Germany. And then in addition, RockTech Lithium, which is a Canadian-German clean tech company, accelerating decarbonization through a lithium agreement. So there's high-level declarations of intents, there's action plans, but what really matters is these transactions at the bottom. If I could summarize, there's a common theme. We're moving from a world where there's exposure to vulnerability. The vulnerability and instability is, I think, the norm in the global economy, global geopolitics, but countries like Germany, Canada, in partnership with the European Union, can provide stability and prosperity for our citizens. And this, whether it's in what we've worked on today, whether it's providing security guarantees, whether it's Volkswagen's investment in Ontario or Bombardier's an aircraft hub here in Frankfurt, this partnership provides a rock and a foundation for that shared prosperity. So I thank you for your attention, and we look forward to questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry.
Bonjour, ici Joël Denis-Barnes de la presse. Ma question s'adresse à vous, M. Carney. Le ministre du Commerce, M. Dominique Leblanc, se trouve...
Thank you very much. I have a question to you, Mr. Carney. In Washington, there will be a debate on negotiations on tariffs. Is there going to be an agreement with Canada? And do you believe that the decision to withdraw or move back from tariffs, is there going to be an agreement that is to be expected next week in Washington? Thank you very much. The current circumstances are such that Canada has the best possible agreement with the United States. As you know, more than 85% of our exports, as you know, are covered by the free trade with the U.S. However, we're seeing great challenges and difficulties for key industries such as the automotive industry, copper, steel. And Mr. Leblanc and our team are going to focus on these strategic sectors. There are many opportunities for cooperation between the United States and Canada in these, but also other areas as well. And we see the opportunity to forge a strategic agreement with the U.S. And at the same time, it's important to prepare for a revision of the agreement. So we have this free trade agreement, and we see the necessity to engage in negotiations on strategic sectors and also prepare for a revision of this. And it provides an opportunity and a possibility to create a level playing field, a balance between Canada and the U.S. as far as most of these sectors are concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Prime Minister, just one question about raw materials. Could you please explore a bit more what Canada can realistically actually offer to Germany and Europe, given the fact that ports on the East Coast and also pipelines are still lacking? And as a former central banker, how worried are you about the stability of the US financial system because of the interventions of Trump at the Fed? Und Herr Bundeskanzler, haben Sie auch über das Thema Nahost, Israel, Anerkennung palästinensischer
And Chancellor, did you also talk about the topic of the Middle East, Israel, the recognition of a Palestinian state? Canada announced that it wants to recognize Palestine as a state, just like France and the UK. Did this leave an impression with you? Is Germany also going to embark down this road, especially now after the attack on the hospital and the Gaza Strip? Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome to take the second part of my question if you wish. Thanks for the question. Look, there's a huge range of immediate opportunities with respect to critical metals and minerals, and there are medium-term opportunities with respect to all forms of energy, including LNG and hydrogen. And I'll quickly explain how we make those happen. Our government is in the process of unleashing $500 billion of investment in energy infrastructure, port infrastructure, particularly intelligence infrastructure as well, with AI. And a number of those investments, the first of which we will be formally announcing in the next 2 weeks, are with respect to new port infrastructure. And some of the examples in the public domain will include from reinforcing and building on the Port of Montreal, Contrecoeur, a new port effectively in Churchill, Manitoba, which would open up enormous LNG plus other opportunities and other East Coast ports for those critical metals and minerals. So there is a lot happening. It's the number one focus of this government is to build that infrastructure, and particularly infrastructure that helps us deepen our partnership with our European partners, and particularly Germany. With respect to the United States financial system. The strength of the United States financial system is many and varied. Its strength on its diversity, bedrock of capital, ability to adjust to many circumstances and much volatility, and I'm confident that whatever the source of that volatility, U.S. financial stability will continue. Of course, prices will adjust to new news, so I don't discount those changes. Chancellor, over to you.
Ja, vielen Dank, Herr Rinke. Der Kanal
Thank you very much, Mr. Rinke. The position of the federal government is clear as far as a possible recognition of the state of Palestine is concerned. Canada knows this. We will not join this initiative. We don't see the requirements met that are needed in order to recognize a state in no way. So we have different opinions on this question. The events of the past days and hours have not changed our position towards this question. We are not going to follow this initiative should it be on the agenda of the General Assembly. So both governments know that there are different opinions and stances on this.
Chancellor, Prime Minister, good morning. Prime Minister Carney, now that the field has been narrowed to 2 bidders for the submarine program, what is your government's intention in terms of a full competition, or are you going to negotiate with a preferred bidder? And Chancellor, how important is drawing Canada into the partnership with Norway to the Transatlantic Alliance?
Yeah, well, I'll answer the one directed to me. Look, we will conduct procurement as we always do, fully, transparently, fairly. So as I mentioned in my remarks, the Minister and I will be visiting in Kiel later today, and as it happens in October, we'll be visiting the Korean facility. So even from that perspective, not that I am the technical expert, Minister has more technical expertise. I'm not the technical expert on submarines. But even from that perspective, just to have the assurance of a level playing field in terms of access and information. But I'd stress that these both 2 bidders, and since I'm in Germany, I'll refer to the German-Norwegian consortium, meet all the technical requirements, the capability requirements. That's why we've been able to accelerate the process. There's a clear difference in their ability, the 2 finalists, to meet those technical requirements, which are very demanding, because in Canada, submarine means weeks under the sea ice, as well as in the Pacific at the same time. So we need to be able to have year-round fleets in all 3 coasts under quite demanding conditions. So that's how the field narrows quite quickly. So it's a testament to both of these companies, both of these consortium, that they qualify. But the one other element that I would mention, which is, and I know the Chancellor is very conscious of this as well, is that our governments will be spending rightly a great deal of money to make our citizens more secure, to make the world more secure, to work with our allies to make the world more secure. We want to spend that as effectively as possible, so interoperability and cooperation is important, and we want to have the maximum economic benefits in our economies as well. So those will be important considerations. En français, très rapidement, très brièvement, si je peux.
I will summarize this in French. The process will be taking place in fair and transparently, as we always do. But in addition, we're seeing deliberations, and of course, these deliberations are necessary, and we need to strike a balance between the economic benefits of Canada and also have the interoperability with our partners. And in conclusion, I want to pay tribute to the German-Norwegian consortium and the South Korean consortium, because the specifications of the procurement and the tendering processes are very special indeed and challenging. Prime Minister Mark Carney is going to visit TKMS in Kiel. I advocate for this. I campaign for this, not necessarily from the point of view of German industry, but also from a perspective that we need to harmonize standards and the amount of products that can be produced. We have one sphere we want to secure and make safe, which is the Northern Atlantic. This is an area we share, but it's also a sphere that we look at from the point of security policy. And if you want to come to a joint solution, you mentioned Norwegian and Canada would join in, it would send out a very strong signal that on the one hand, we are willing to strengthen defense aspects, the defense of the Northern Atlantic, and second, that we are able to bring about standardization and increase production in the and quantity in the North Atlantic Alliance. I urge to reduce the amount of systems and also increase quantities, because only by doing so we can achieve best possible results in terms of efficiency with the money that we have available as far as military procurement is concerned. So the visit by Prime Minister Carney in Kiel is also a very important visit in terms of strategic aspects, but also from an economic and industry point of view, we would hope for an intensification of cooperation between Germany and Canada.
Herr Premierminister, Herr Bundeskanzler.
Prime Minister, Federal Chancellor, one question to you both. On the topic of Ukraine, the U.S. President voiced the expectation last week that there will be a meeting soon between Zelensky and Putin. This deadline is going to be over. So what are your expectations? What will happen if this meeting doesn't take place next weekend? And which options for actions do you have? And Federal Chancellor, allow me to ask a domestic question. There were concerns about the law to reintroduce conscription. There were concerns by the CDU. What does it mean? Did you agree on conditions under which the conscription military service could be introduced as far as increasing troops are concerned in Germany? Let me first answer your question pertaining to Ukraine. Indeed, when we were in Washington last week, President Trump was in a phone call with Putin, and we talked about and deliberated on the phone call. We voiced the expectation that there will be a meeting between President Zelensky and President Putin within the framework of 2 weeks. Putin ties conditions to this meeting, and from the position of Ukraine and from our perspective, these conditions are unacceptable. So the Russians play for time. So shouldn't there be such a meeting as agreed between Putin and Trump? Of course, it is up to us, the Europeans and the Americans. We will have to discuss this anew, and President Trump offered to invite to a trilateral meeting, him, Putin, and President Zelensky. This is the next step that should happen should the meeting that was agreed upon doesn't take place within the course of 2 weeks. regarding legislation in Germany, Mr. Fischer, there was a caveat that was voiced, and it is a process that we see on a weekly basis when it comes to coordinating amongst the ministries. When one or the other party sees the need for improvement, it's a very normal government action. The parliamentary group of the CDU in Parliament voiced wanted to enlarge the legislative bill, and so that it contains an automatic conscription should voluntary recruiting not suffice. The Federal Minister for Defense rightly pointed out that we need to create the necessary conditions. It's military facilities we don't have anymore. We need also personnel which is capable of instructing the new conscripts. So we could not reinstitute the law on conscription that we suspended in 2011, so the requirements are not met. We agree within the coalition that we need to create the necessary conditions, and tomorrow in Cabinet, as you know, we are going to hold a cabinet meeting in the Ministry of Defense tomorrow. We will take the first steps. It's a bill that was agreed upon among the coalition parties, but this is a first step. If we see that we don't meet the necessary numbers, we will need to assess the situation and assess the people who would be available for military service. There are limits to feasibility right now, but there is no fundamental disagreement. We are in agreement in the coalition that we need to increase the number of soldiers of the Bundeswehr and significantly increase the numbers, and we're going to do this in the coming years, months and years ahead.
Just briefly, with respect to the potential bilateral meeting, I was in Kyiv 2 days ago, met with President Zelensky, and he reiterated that he's willing to meet President Putin anywhere neutral. In other words, he doesn't expect President Putin to come to Kyiv, and he doesn't plan to go to Moscow for that meeting. But anywhere else is fair game. And as the Chancellor just said, we see President Putin putting conditions and stalling and being afraid of having this meeting. So what does it mean? Well, to be honest, I think from whether the meeting is immediately happening or before the trilateral, as the Chancellor rightly says, which is the key meeting chaired by President Trump, it's important to stand by Ukraine. And so that's the 19th sanction package of the European Union. It's the latest sanctions Canada's put in place. We've now sanctioned over 3,000 Russian entities and their enablers. It's providing military capacity, and we announced the delivery next month of the NATO package, the so-called Pearl package, to Ukraine, an additional $2 billion in total investments, including in Ukrainian drone production capacity. This is what they need, and then Canadian assistance and development of those drones and supply to Ukraine. So standing by, and final point, again, this is where the cooperation is important, is we did discuss beyond the 19 sanction package what other forms of financial sanctions could be possible if necessary. Obviously, the right path here is for President Putin to sit down and end this senseless killing for which he is responsible.
Vielen Dank. Many thanks.
Thank you.
And have a safe trip to the Baltics.
And have a safe.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.